Feel free if anybody has a topic they'd like to bring up or speak about. Feel free to. Well, that's pretty hot.
I think we are at a turning point. I think summer is almost over.
Well, I prefer the heat over the cold, but I mean, I'll take whatever that 60 to 70 degree weather all the time.
Yeah, I'm also like more on the cold side of a fan. Yeah.
Kind of a slow news day, right?
What'd you say?
Kind of a slow news day today.
Yeah, there was a couple things earlier. More people just talking about the ETH merge because they had like a
Yeah.
set. They came out with a certain amount of blocks that's supposed to end the ETH one, and now there's it's kind of like finally when things are like finalized paper wise. It's like when people really start like saying what they really feel. About the whole ETH 1, ETH 2, right? So I guess some publicist came out, popular publicist on the ETH 2 chain. I mean, on the ETH chain, and she said, well, what about all the NFTs? So all the NFTs are not going to be the original NFTs anymore, because obviously it's a copy and paste of you know the the you the image, right?
Wait,
Or
wait, 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 wait. Do they have to be
contract.
reminted?
Well, I mean, think about it.
That would
Like, I
suck.
mean, maybe you don't have to remint, right? But it's still like a copy and paste of the contract, right? It's not that same unique identifier.
That would be like that would be a kind of remint. If that's the case, then I mean that sucks. If the original account is not the same anymore or slightly changed,
Well, how would it be?
uh,
It's a different blockchain, right? Your
this
contract is
So it's a copy. So it's a copy paste. Then it's not the original.
right.
I mean, well, this is what I was saying. Like, is this if they go to this new consensus model? What's with all the other projects on the chain? Like, how do they transfer? Is this like seamlessly? Is this just a switch? I don't know. Like,
Best
what's
the best way to explain it to people is like they don't even have to call it Ethereum 2.0. I mean, they can call it whatever they want to. Really, they can call it Consensus 2.0. It's essentially just a new network.
so it's basically a fork then, right? I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I have no clue. I'm not into that stuff, but
But if it's
or
not
in
the original, wouldn't that decrease its value then, or declare it pretty much invaluable?
And so what they're going to do is they're going to kill the first one off, and so you have no choice. There is no choice in the sense of like, well, we're not going to call this. Well, this one's not going to be valuable. It's like, no, if you want Ethereum, you have to go here because the first one's getting killed off.
the
Is
thing
that
is,
official? Is that official though, or they
Well,
still
you
haven't?
have people like CZ Binance who are saying, "Oh, we're going to delist it." So if it gets delisted, right, and all the exchanges, you can't even trade for it. So essentially, it's not even worth mining because you can't even sell it anywhere, even if you wanted to. It's not even worth anything then at that point. What?
CZ is scary. CZ is scary, dude. Like they what they do on Ethereum. Whoo, holy shit, man! Like in terms of what is it, intelligence and how what kind of software they're like they have really good intelligence stuff. Like they've been notified. Like they monitor the whole ledger constantly. Like they constantly monitor it for any suspicious behavior, and then they kind of like make alerts to people. They even made like an alert to Sushi Swap, I think it was, or whatever it was. They were like they're messaging them and hey, we have seen like it's we identified a set of transactions that seem to be beginning of a hack or draining, whatever. And then it seems like it was just someone who got social engineered, whatever. But they have like huge eyes over the whole network all the time. Like, it's really scary, I feel like.
Yeah, sorry I was late.
You could end up. See, I got scared for a second. I was like, oh, am I Friday, right? Yeah.
Dad, I saw your message and I laughed.
Well, I got a hard stop at 5 because I got to go out on the boat with my parents, and so yeah, I gotta have to move on.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it should be fun. We'll go sunset, get some barbecue, whatever.
Take some pictures, Karma.
I might, but it's whatever.
A couple of selfies with the sunset.
Well, actually, where
that's so Karma.
Because there's no the cool thing is there's I'm on the East Coast, right? Sunset's in the West. So normally if you watching sunset, it's going over the buildings and whatnot, versus where we're going down in the boat, there's no buildings and whatnot. So it's like a nicer sunset because it's all like just over the trees and the forest and the marsh and the creeks and all that stuff. But
well,
no,
enjoy your sunset, man. If you're gonna be with
well,
your parents,
I think
that's good.
with what you guys are talking about, it's like they've got to. Oh, I just lost my train of thought. That they've got to. How shit, I really did lose my train of thought. What? There's aspects to anyway what they're doing that doesn't completely. You gotta look at anyway. I'm gonna just shut up.
I mean, do you know what for me is really interesting? Like, when all these things come somehow together. Like, September seems like to be a month that is, I don't know why, but for many projects, or seems like very highly anticipated and intense, dense of news. Like, you have, I think, Flare is around that time. You have the Ethereum thing, what's going on, and maybe, I don't know, like, I have no idea, but maybe we see on the XRPL something with XS20, some more movement around that time. No idea though. That would be interesting, like everything coming together at that time. Like,
What are you implying?
That's what I was going to say. With the whole, like, how do you do like a reissuance of? I mean, the Ethereum thing. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, how are you gonna say this is a distributed ledger, where nobody's in control of the ledger entries and whatnot? This is all good, 2 thumbs up, great. But then, hey, we're just gonna like change the entire structure of the ledger, and everybody's just like okay with that. It's a little bit of a weird thing. The XRP ledger just does whatever the hell it does, and that's what it does. And yeah, there's amendments and whatnot, but you've never seen a major change, fork, what have you. I don't know. I just it seems weird.
I mean, I have not so much an issue with that, in that sense that if everyone agrees to this, and you have like kind of to adapt for these things, because if you stay static, then you run into maybe issues. It's the same with let's say quantum stuff, right? If you want to adjust this in the future, there will be an adjustment in 10, 20 years, whatever, right? Also for the XRPL. And you got to vote for these things and do that stuff. And,
That's reasonable, and I think that's why it's good to have an amendment process. I mean, look at like the
Yeah,
U.S. Constitution; it has an amendment process. So I think retaining the ability to be sort of adaptable and malleable is important. But when you just boil the ledgers down, like which ledgers have been the most consistent? It's and then everybody wants to talk about anyway. It's crypto bullshit, basically. I don't get it. Like I don't think people are really being intellectually honest in often cases.
Go ahead, Steakman. Thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the stage a little bit. I stumbled into this mid-conversation, but I heard someone mentioning quantum. Was it in regards to quantum computing and algorithms being quantum resistant?
I mentioned the for the XRPL, yeah, all the hashes and everything else. If that has to be like changed, or algorithms to be adjusted, which are like it's in far future, right?
Okay.
So much errors, and yeah.
Just to elaborate a little bit on that, because I've been delving into that topic, not in regards to XRP, but as for quantum algorithms, I don't know obviously when quantum computers will become a thing, but the 5th of July this year, the NIST actually rolled out new encryption standards to prepare against quantum computing. So it might be a little bit quicker around the corner than we all think. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, you have to front run these things, right? You cannot wait until someone has it, because then he can already do everything. So when you already foresee this stuff, it's coming up, whatever, you have to front run and implement this into the ledger. So I think this is a smart move.
Really, not really. It's not even that. It's more that we're already fucked, so to speak, because all the information from the past 15 to 20 years is being harvested right now by many political entities like the European Union, United States, China, Russia, etc. And if you have the old information and the old encryption, you can just use a quantum computer and break it, and in a fraction of a second, just read what it says. So everything from the past 15 to 20 years is being able to become public. As for taking over a chain, obviously you need to be prepared for that, but we might see a little bit of a Wild West if the first time a quantum computer is being turned on for to 51% attack a chain. But let's hope everyone is ready by then.
Yeah, the question is like how much the past would be worthwhile in that sense. Okay, on a blockchain, like the other stuff, the encryption between like banks and all the communication there, right? This is in hindsight, you can go and not seen, or so to speak, not tracked already. It's irrelevant basically, because on blockchain you have like the opposite. Everything is transparent, but the identity is not, right? Where in traditional banking is vice versa, right? You have the identities, but you not necessarily know the money transfer, the structure there. And with gateways like the exchanges and so on, I think it's very difficult to stay anonymous, in blockchain. Let's say it like this. It's very difficult.
I agree with that part, but geopolitically, the quantum computing and the breaking of 15 to 10 to 20-year-old diplomatic treaties or emails on a high level, they will have a major implication.
Yeah, that might definitely be. Yeah, I mean, have no opinion there.
Web2, right? Every single storage data center that has these little bits of information stored over the last beginning of the internet, right? Even in the intra era, you'd have everything accessible quantum computing wise.
Which is why nuclear codes are installed off the grid, for example. It's especially an extra protection against this sort of stuff.
Tony, since when do you raise your hand, man?
You're right. Go ahead, man.
Tony!
You there, Tony?
Jesus, dude, I was talking the entire time.
I had a feeling.
I didn't even know I was on mute. That's why I was like, "Can you guys hear me?" I was asking them, like, "Can someone help me pronounce that name?" How do you pronounce that? Hubai? I don't know. Anyways,
Hiobi?
Yeah,
the exchange. Oh
yeah,
I don't know like what either what's properly pronounced.
Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce it either. So the CEO is in talks with investors to sell the majority of the stake at $3 billion. And it says here that it's right up top. Tron founder Justin Sun and Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX are among those that are in preliminary contact with them about buying it.
Dude, what is going on with that Sam, dude? Like, Sam is buying up the whole industry.
He's buying it at really cheap discounts, too.
He is JPM Sam. I mean, sorry.
He goes shopping, man.
I was going to ask, is it JPM or is it, I thought it was Goldman.
Doesn't he have the backing of both?
No, I mean Goldman Sachs.
Yeah. Goldman and JPM. Vet said JPM, right? Doesn't he have the backing of both?
I don't know, dude. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure he's had like quite a few contacts through the US government for quite a bit of time with FTX. So yeah, there's definitely a lot going on with that space with Sam. But I mean, whether it be for the good or the bad, I'm not too sure yet. But
he has his
yeah, he's definitely changing some stuff.
His family has banking history.
Yeah, I mean, they seem definitely more active on the market than, let's say, Coinbase, right? Like,
well, they have backers that it says right here that include Zeng Fund and Sequoia China were among about lease decision were informed about lease decision during a July shareholders meeting.
Well, Sequoia is huge. They're one of the biggest players.
He's seeking between $2 to $3 billion.
Where is even that Hiobi sitting? Like, China?
Yeah, it's a Chinese exchange.
Okay.
Do we know why they want to sell it?
No, it doesn't really give a specific reason. He's just saying it just says that the CEO is looking to offer.
Whoops, sorry.
Wow, Death.
Wow.
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 Wow. No, it says
I just want to say I was really surprised by that mute. That's all.
Yeah, I was offended.
Hey, I got a question.
Go ahead.
Do y'all remember seeing a paper from, it's like the Japan's SEC. It's like F something. I forgot what it's called. But it's like their SEC. And so when XRP went over there and got listed on the exchanges or whatever, our SEC under Jay Clayton signed off onto that, saying that XRP is not a security. Do y'all remember seeing that paper?
Yeah, they did the same
But
thing with
it was
like Vietnam and stuff like that as well. So, I mean, there's definitely memorandums of understanding that have gone across borders, but they're not sticking to it. So,
it was when they first sued Ripple. They filed an FOIA request with the uh, agency over there. That's the regulatory body over such deals, and so they were like, "No, it's currency to us," and they were like, "All right."
yeah, but it's not the only country that they've done it with as well, though. That's the issue. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Vietnam and a couple other ones I've actually seen their MOUs, and yeah, they don't care. They're just going to do whatever they want. That's what the SEC is about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, but every other country in the world pretty much says every other jurisdiction says XRP is a currency or a utility token. That's what some of the jurisdiction in Europe calls it.
Nope, you're wrong. You're wrong, Death. It's definitely a security.
Damn.
Security. It's got all the attributes of a security.
I'm missing
In
all over
fact,
the place today.
Damn. Is that scams?
no, I'm voting. I'm going to vote for next on the next board meeting. I'm voting for I don't know whatever we're voting on, but I'm going to vote for whatever it is. It's totally security.
I'm sending a letter to the Bitcoin Association of America. This is outrageous.
Yeah, I know, and I'm going to get my dividends next month. That'll be nice. Yeah, it's totally security.
Well, there you have it from Gary Gensler himself.
Sorry, I just I'm actually kind of anyway. I'll just shut up.
Karma's just looking forward to his trip today.
Yeah. He just let's not ruin the day.
He's all over the place, man. Cannot
Where
wait for that
Where is he
sunset.
going to?
I mean, I'm tired of the BS. To be honest, man. Like, how long does it take to do? There's good work being done here. I don't understand what the. I mean,
Imagine I come to your house because I'm a plumber, and I'm like, so what's wrong? And you're like, well, I got these electrical wires here, and that's like basically how the SEC kind of answers the questions. They're like, you ask them a question, they're like, yeah, what about this though? And you're like, no, that's not what we're talking about right now. What's going on?
yeah, it's weird. It's like anyway. I mean, it'll blow past. I mean, it's like a hurricane. You know, they might hang out for a couple days, but they do blow away. But it's just a bunch of BS from the SEC's point of view.
Is it
I mean,
though?
they're doing it.
Is it though, Karma? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a bunch of BS. I mean, when you make a legal argument, you stick to it, right? Like, here's the facts. Like, I did not commit this crime. Okay, you kind of stick to that, right? You don't be like, oh, well, I didn't commit this other crime. Or, no, there was another crime over there. I didn't commit that crime. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And there's not even any fraud allegations. The whole thing is just, I'm really, quite frankly, tired of it. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'll be honest, man. I'm tired of hearing about the lawsuit. It's just the same shit, and
Yeah.
I like every time I hear about it, I just tune out because it's exhausting, man. Like, and I'd rather read about hear about the news, that's going on every day, how it's impacting the market, stock market, crypto market, both of those, and the economy and geopolitics, than read about the case and the SEC's bullshitting nonstop.
I mean,
I don't know. That's just me.
I've been used to, like to follow this very closely and always to stay on top of what's going on. and with every document release. But at this point, I'm just when something interesting happens, because of the response of the community, I'm just asking like, what's happening? What's happening? Because like
Well,
it's fatigue.
I appreciate that the SEC attorneys have a job to do, right? They got to make an argument, the best argument they can make. But they keep changing it. And it's like,
if you've spent 20 minutes reading about the lawsuit Ripple versus SEC for the last year, then you've spent at least 41 hours straight reading about the lawsuit. And that's only if you read 20 minutes a week for the last year every week.
Yeah.
Would it make sense if the SEC would be doing that in order to influence the timeline for legislation in the US, because they're still negotiating on a geopolitical theater?
I've wondered that. I've wondered if the SEC was just trying to delay and buy Congress time. But now I think we're going to go into the next Congress, so we're talking 2023 before they actually do anything.
And is this a crypto legislation in the US? Is that like a how do you call that? Is that like a bipartisan type of thing? Is it like supported by both Republicans or Democrats, or would a different presidential candidate also sway a different direction? Does that play a part as well?
I think if we get any crypto legislation, it's bipartisan. As much as I don't really think the party.
And the parties are both on the same team.
Yeah, that's good. Good example. Good.
They're
Yeah, I would agree. I think whatever ultimately happens will be bipartisan. The Democrats seem to be skeptical or negative towards. So
XRP Mullethead is talking, but I couldn't quite make a. Oh, thanks. You muted it.
that was some other person screaming.
Right. Sorry, Karma, I cut you off.
no, you're good, man. Democrats, for whatever reason, which they seem to be a little more negative towards the crypto markets. The Republicans seem to be a little more positive. The Democrats have articulated a little more of why they're negative. The Republicans haven't really articulated why they're positive, but there's certainly some, the two stupid parties. This is why I hate this political BS.
Well, they're fixing inflation with printing more money,
That's how you fix inflation, though. You just inflate more money into the inflation rate, and then when you've had a bit more inflation, then just get a bit more inflation.
But
and put a bit more on top of that.
My question is not necessarily in whether the US wants to default or print more money, but more in what type of legislation will they adopt, and whether that's different if you have a Democratic or a Republican president.
Well, and the president, in the end of the day, doesn't. He gets to either veto something or not. But
no, I get that it's Congress, but having Trump in presidency obviously would also impact Congress with a new scandal a day, probably to keep them busy. But that's just my European view of it.
By the way, from personal experience, if you ever have a business partner that wants to put into the legal work that they have veto power over everything, get rid of them.
That's called a dictator.
Yeah.
Could you tell that to the European Union 70 years ago?
No, I told that to my partner that sold the software off behind my back.
Wait, Karma, did you get scammed?
More or less, I guess. Yeah.
Sucks, man.
I've taken a few bad beats, but it's okay.
That sucks, man.
That's one way to
sorry
put
hear
it. Yeah. How long does it take to get over that type of situation? It's not something you put beside you in one day, I guess.
I,
Um, no, I rebuilt the company without him.
Oh wow.
yeah, it's not easy. Karma has his experience. I've had mine as well. Different experiences, but I mean, the one thing you learned is you learn to prepare yourself for future situations, and it makes you more cautious. I mean, that's what happened in my case. So I lost. I had business partners, and I've lost a lot of money because of them. But it just made me more cautious, and it prepares you. It makes you. I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but it makes you stronger, man.
They
And
have
it
a
just
saying in Japan. It's an old saying, and I don't know the Japanese pronunciation, but it's like falling 7 times and getting up 8 times. Sort of basically.
About my fourth or fifth time of trying to get back up. So
You have
I
some to go.
if
Yeah, you have something to go.
I make it to 8, then oh my god.
Well, let's hope it's in dog years, but it's just the general gist of it is you just have to get up one more time more than you fall. That's it.
Well, they do say there's another thing that the average entrepreneur, I think they fail. I think it's like 3 or 4. I forget the number. They fail several times anyway
Most
before they.
most entrepreneurs are successful from 48 to 50 years and onwards. 55. That's when they start to become successful because of that.
Well, yeah, because
right. You
20,
you
30,
fail
50.
several. Right, exactly. You fail several times. Like when I launched my business, it didn't. That wasn't the first business that I had tried or the first investment. I did 3 other investments before that, and each one failed. But it prepares you for the one that's supposed to be successful. And it didn't take me overnight. It took me 6 months of losing money every single day, but I kept going at it because I knew it was going to pay off. So once it paid off, you know, it just snowballs after that.
I'm losing
And
money
a
every day.
successful business, there's 7 days out of the week. A
I'm
Yeah,
successful
but
business has 4 days.
I think that the entire personality and character that you have also plays a large part in figuring out what you're good at, what you're not good at,
Well, an entrepreneur,
getting
yeah,
getting that sorted out. That's also
the
one of the steps that it's a good mirror for yourself.
the
Uh,
entrepreneurship mentality is, to make you stronger after every single failure. So when
yeah,
I
it's
first
just keep
started,
going.
I was in a group of other people who had their businesses, and then for me, like one thing they told me is, you're gonna have to start your own business. And I didn't know anything about business back then. I didn't know anything about finance back then. So it was a very, very, very scary scenario. And I
Yeah, I
was
can
thirty
imagine.
thousand dollars in debt. So I was like, well, what am I gonna do? What am I, once you take that big first step, then it's another big step and another, and then you're not walking, you're not taking steps, you're running. And you got to find initiatives on how to make money. They say that the strongest lessons is an empty wallet, and that was the strongest lesson for me when I started my business.
Very well said.
I mean, I'm losing money every day doing what I'm doing right now, but I don't think that'll stay the same forever. So
It's temporary. I
I
mean, you got
hope
to
you have
just
deep
go at it.
pockets though.
I've got enough money for at least a couple of years, but that's not the point. I mean, I'm not trying to burn out of money. I'm not that old. Um, but you gotta things have to ultimately start generating cash flow. Like your cash flow statement does matter. So you gotta have more income than outgo. I mean, it's just like a basics thing.
I think this is even more true in like in crypto, like where businesses get formed or projects get formed like very quickly. So I think there's, also probably a lot to learn, and interesting, and probably a task to look into how to properly do this.
Well, I don't think Ethereum is really doing it the right way. I mean, they've taken this long to get to proof of stake, but at the same time, I mean, they're still talking about, the future of continuously changing their setup to be able to make it exactly what they want. I mean, that's a big worry, especially when they're going to go into these hard forks. I mean, I don't know how well this hard fork's going to go down when it comes to changing everything up. So.
Yeah, I mean, also like for projects built on this change. I don't know. Let's say an NFT project for Bored Apes with Yuga Labs, for example. Although this is like not the right approach in my opinion. Long story short, but if people come to you and they say, hey, you know what, like these people are using these images, in a commercial way. You got to do something, and then you suddenly, as a business, Yuga Labs, as an entity, you have to enforce with law and lawsuits the interest of some
Well,
people there.
I think this is a good question because when you look at the economics of the network, you switch it and you change. I mean, obviously, if you move from proof of work to proof of stake, you're changing the economic incentive structure. I would think that would have a significant. I've started to hear more and more people asking this question, or beating around this bush, if you will.
I think it's a huge mess, and it's perfect time because Flare's coming out next month as well.
Well, and Flare has a very good, concise economic arrangement, the way the network is set up. I mean, I don't say this lightly, like, because not a lot of these projects that impress me, but the Flare one does. They've got their incentive structures set up in a way that I think really help create positive feedback loops that help benefit the network, that help benefit the network participants, so the network participants can help benefit the network to, okay, positive feedback loop. So, yeah, I mean, this is going to be a big thing when Ethereum changes over. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I really don't know what I don't know what sort of expectation I would have.
Well, I mean, even with the triple halvening and things like that occurring pretty soon as well. I mean, because you've uprooted the whole entire incentive scheme for pretty much everyone that's really pushed that project forward as much as they have. I mean, except for Joe Lubin, of course, but it's all going to change, and obviously, like everyone that's running validators and all that kind of stuff and was mining at the time. I mean, yeah, I mean, they've even said themselves, I mean, the only way to be able to get the transaction rates up from even where they are now is to be able to move to a centralized system as well. So, I mean, how does that work? I mean, the SEC is not exactly getting involved in that, are they?
I don't know what the SEC is doing, and I don't think they do either, to be quite honest.
You know what? Because it was interesting what you said with the, also with the nodes, just brought to me like to a separate idea about with, for example, side chains, right? That if you would choose to run their Ripple D software, it would be really interesting, because some people were also suggesting this, or like supporting people who would tweak Ripple D, and to get like whatever, change the ledger times, just mess a bit with the code, and see like what's the result, because you kind of see like how well programmed everything is, like on edge, and if you just tweak something, you break something else on the other end. So this reminds me of when we talk about from proof of if you move from proof of work to proof of stake. I imagine like this. I mean, I hope not, for all the people, but imagine you do the transition, right, and then suddenly things start to break, because you have been considering this for your project, like the underlying, maybe not so much, but I mean, you programmed maybe your software, whatever, your smart contract to be specified for certain things that only exist on proof of work or whatever, some variables, what so on, and they completely break just, there. I don't know, because you have to reprogram maybe stuff. As I said, I have no idea like how this would work totally. But curious to see.
Yeah,
and sidechains are good for that.
Can't guarantee that every DApp and every NFT and everything that exists on Ethereum right now will be easily able to be replicated over there, right? There's like no way to say 100% until it's done.
I mean, if they have to be indeed reminted, right, and even if they get automated reminted, in my opinion, it's a loss of provenance. But if for the people, I don't know if that's okay, right? Because it's like, every smart contract has to go through that, right? Like that argument. Maybe they justify this then that way. I have no idea.
Well, it's like why Bitcoin still exists, right? Is because people just don't want to change it. It's like the same concept. I feel like.
Yeah.
Well, humans tend to resist change.
Yes, they do.
It's like a scary thought for them.
Yeah, I mean, it has like obviously advantages and disadvantages, right? Because people say, they don't change a lot of stuff that's for Bitcoin, and so on, and therefore this is one of the value propositions, like the being constant in every situation, and like to have the track record, so to speak. And I mean, I don't know if that's the right approach totally.
I'm more concerned on their whole idea that, okay, well, they've got it to proof of stake now, but to be able to bring extra things in the future, there's actually still talking about doing more than just this one hard fork. That's what concerns me over time. I mean, if you keep on changing things to that extent, I mean, that's a big issue.
Well, no network, and this just goes into coding and developing, right? Nothing is ever set in stone. There always needs to be future development, future tweaks, future work that will be done. So I mean, that's kind of normal.
I love what you said there, because this is so fucking true, and especially because you see this also with on the XRPL. Like people were saying originally, XS20, yeah, well, it's developed by Nick Bogales and Ripple, and like Ripple is holy, and they do not make any mistakes whatsoever. Like what comes from Ripple is holy by default. But we have seen with XS20, it's a perfect example. Like we have seen like so many issues with the software. It has to be revised like at least 2 times so far, I think, and to fix other stuff that XS20 caused to break, right? So XS20 itself was not the issue, right, so to speak, but it caused other stuff. And in my opinion, like this was the perfect example. Hey, you have to test this stuff. So I would assume totally the same with ETH 2.0 and proof of stake transition, right? It wouldn't go smooth, in my opinion. Like that would be ideal, but you cannot like bet on stuff like this, in my opinion. You would definitely see stuff breaking. They have to fix. They're gonna push updates and all that stuff. And if you want to go through all this, then that's your choice, right? But you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, well said. Well said. By the way, if anybody in the audience has any questions, would like to come up, any topics or anything they'd like to chat on, please feel free to hit the request on the bottom left there and come and hang out with us.
And also to comment maybe on that thing that I mentioned with XS20. For example, I wouldn't say that it will stay like this forever, right? I see this as a first iteration, an approved iteration of NFTs on the XRPL, and we will see probably new, additions onto this amendment and so on in the future. It gets expanded. Maybe we find new use cases. Maybe something big happens. Let's say whatever, the classic, example with real estate, whatever. I know everyone is mentioning this all the time, but maybe there's a special need, for that. That would be like worthwhile to include into that object, and these things are living. They evolve with time, and I think this is very healthy to do. But it depends on what are the steps. Do you take baby steps, right, or do you take like these huge steps, right, like with proof of work to proof of stake, because I don't know.
I'll tell you what, the AMM stuff is a pretty huge step, in my opinion. Anyhow, there's some pretty significant work there.
Yeah, but I personally see the AMM also not personally, right, not coming probably and next year. Personally, like it could be sooner. But...
That's probably reasonable. I mean, it's not going to happen like tomorrow, but yeah. But it's
and
still.
And I tell you also why. Just because it fits. Not that it is true, not that I know this for a fact, but pathfinding is a critical thing. Like, for example, XS20 was messing with pathfinding. Okay, so this is why like also issues there got fixed, but I don't know if it got really fixed or just pushed onto the client side, like pathfinding, whatever. Okay, but the AMM is using it, right? This is like it needs it. So I would assume it would need more testing. Maybe I don't know. More stuff has to change. If it would, like, I don't know. But as soon as I heard like something is using pathfinding, and everything is using pathfinding, right? Because these objects are interoperable by default, right? So difficult. Not difficult, but testing. It needs a lot of testing.
I mean, no one said this stuff was easy. And pathfinding is definitely computationally expensive if you employ it.
I tell you what computational intensive it will be. Hooks, apparently. I hadn't that on my radar actually, but
well,
hooks will be.
That's why there's
intensive.
a limit. I believe it's only 8 hops. You can only string together 8 hooks. I think there's a limit there. So it has to end, right? Like you get basically 8 ledgers or 8 ledger closes, and then like your string of business logic has to have been completed, or nope, no more.
I thought it was only 4.
It might be. I could totally be wrong.
I have no idea. Yeah.
The max string you said.
Max hops.
When you start like stacking hooks together, because that
number.
What is it?
Not gonna let it go over 10. Or was it
10 the number?
7 or 10? I think I said 10. They said 7.
Well, see, 7 was the number of hops that pathfinding used to do. Then they did the synthetic or the hub, or what do you call it? Synthetic order books. Basically, they made the bridge currency, and that helped to reduce the number of hops, which helped to reduce the computation that was required to close a ledger, which helped to reduce the time frame it took to close a ledger from 7-8 seconds down. But I think pathfinding will only go up to like 7. And so if hooks was, I don't know, man. I don't know the exact specifics.
Yeah, I think it was 10.
Sauce, go ahead.
Yeah. So going back to the AML, I think going back to the AML and then Ethereum switching over to proof of stake. A very interesting topic, and I've heard this before. Actually, I've heard it. The idea float around a few times where the switch over, the merge, can actually be the death of Ethereum. And real quick, the AML, I think it's gonna be a push. I think it's gonna be pushed due to Ethereum and how much money laundering is already going on in open seas. I can see them using Ethereum as a catalyst, but that goes into speculative territory, but it just makes sense on that front.
For me, it has definitely the potential, like as a, because you're switching to ETH 2.0, but honestly, like you have also to take into account, like, those people are not amateurs, right? So they will probably try to get it to work done and properly and everything as best as they can.
I'm not
but
sure
yeah,
who
you're right
said
with
it.
the AML.
Maybe you said it. I'm not too sure because I just was listening. I wasn't watching names. But someone said that it's just like basically the way that Ethereum have to, like, alter the chain a little bit or do their little updates here and there to kind of suffice the market, so that way they can kind of get it working the way they deem, I guess, operable nowadays or more modern. I think that doesn't really resonate well with me because see projects like XRP, Algo, HBAR, or whatever, they probably won't ever need to do that, in my opinion. To have these band-aids per se for scalability.
Yeah. I mean, you're totally right. Like, and also what comes into play is the size of the network. Like, Ethereum is not a small weight, right? I mean, it's a heavy weight in the cryptosphere, and if you just sum up all the value that is built on top of Ethereum, it's probably, I don't know, 75%, 80% of the whole crypto market, probably. Like, everything's built on Ethereum, basically, or the most. So there's huge money, right, in the game, and so it makes it more complicated.
Definitely. I just see more AML potential coming from Ethereum. That's all. Because when you guys started talking about that, my mind went to how would they try to stop that? Besides just KYC. And it just goes back to ISO compliance. But
Sorry,
yeah, I mean,
I got rugged there for a second. Well, what did I miss? I was just about.
Oh, we were just talking about Ethereum.
What about it? The 2.0?
Yeah, the 2.0 and AML.
Yeah, how they could basically use AML on Ethereum as a way to get more KYC as like a more entry level, process for exchanges, because that's definitely going to have to be a thing. But like you guys said, it's like that's not an overnight situation.
Oh, the whole point behind Ethereum 2.0, and I think, and I was going to make a comment right before, of course, Twitter rugged me, was like, when it comes to making decisions for the Ethereum 2.0 network to make amendments and changes, it's going to be super easy for them because over 60% of the early day initial ICO holders tokens still exist in the network. And so, if they run the nodes, I mean, that'll be centralized. They can make a decision real quick.
Yeah, it's a terrible idea to secure a network with money, right? I mean, isn't that like how the real world is basically ruled? and
yeah,
we
that's
see
basically it's like a dictatorship on blockchain. It's like a sexy form of dictatorship.
And this is why people pointing out, like, oh, Ripple has so much XRP and they own like so much. Yeah, but the thing is, in terms of the consensus and everything, and everything attached to this, it has no effect. Like, they do not get treated better or preferred in any shape or form if they submit transactions, if they do stuff. No, they're just equal as anyone who's transacting on the XRPL. You know, unlike with Ethereum, you have like a huge stake. Do you have 50%? You can censorship, you know, someone a censor, and it's huge. Like, it's not good. Also, we have seen, just to add on this, it was on Solana, and there was a comment from Matt Hamilton. I think it was beautiful. He was like basically saying, when on Solana there was like in this DeFi protocol where the token holders were voting to freeze a big whale's assets, you know, like this 100 millions or whatever, and it was definitely possible because like the token worth of this DeFi stuff was less. It was, I don't know, let's say 10 million, right? So 10 million was trying to secure 100 million in value. You know, like obviously they're gonna confiscate this, right? It's terrible. Because the shareholders or stakeholders do not align in terms of their interest. So that's shit. Like if you have a proof of stake network, and the proof of stake, like the staked worth of all the tokens, right? By the validators, let's say it's $1 million worth, and I come now into this chain, right? And I have 100 million. Like, what's stopping you guys? Because you guys have only 1 million at stake, to say, hey, you know what? We're gonna freeze your assets. You know, and we're gonna get that stuff. Like, we want that.
Ethereum's always
You
been
know,
top down too. It's basically they figured out, okay, hey, gas fees aren't really working out. The everyday retail investors aren't taking gas fees. It's kind of a meme against them. So what does JP Morgan do in good old JP Morgan fashion? They adopt a new business model for their business. That's what they treat it as, apparently. So they think that the proof of stake is going to help alleviate these gas fees and help more people get on their chains, what it seems like. But I'm able to see what it is.
it definitely will solve all the issues, right? If it's completely said and done with slow transactions and fees. This is yeah. Like, you cannot argue against this. Yeah, this is proof of stake does solve this, right?
That's the whole purpose, is that.
Yeah.
But it's like I got a 1955 Ford Mustang, right? And like, you
Yeah.
know, and it's all completely rusted up or something like that. And so I take that engine and I throw it in a Prius, right? Like, you know, it's not meant to do what you're doing with it. That was a bad analogy. It should have been swapped, the bad engine for a nice looking
Yeah.
car. But yeah.
No, totally right. I mean, it's definitely the way, because the thing is, like, we see already like the flaws with proof of stake. As I said, you have issues to secure higher values, you know, that exceeds the value of the staked stuff, right? So as I said, with the incidents, what happened there, so you can only secure up to the stake value, and this is like not good because you're limited to this. And second, as you know, as Death was saying, like, or you guys as well, it's not good because, you know, people who have the money or who have the tokens will be like major stakeholders in this new blockchain. So basically, nothing changed. You just label them, right? They are not miners now; they are now stakers. That's it.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
But isn't that one of the points of like proof of stake as well? I mean, like, obviously Ethereum's always been, you know, top end heavy, but now for the people that have like obviously the largest amount of ETH just sitting there and waiting for obviously to be able to expand in price. I mean, now they've got a massive way to be able to earn money at the same time. So instead of going out to nodes.
You know what? This makes the ETH gate look more and more prevalent because Congress is holding ETH and they're not passing these legislations because they found value in it withholding it, right? So now they're switching to proof of stake. Now that's been confirmed. Now they basically can be. I get it now. It's starting to make sense.
I mean, doesn't it look? I mean, it makes a lot more sense when you can see that it's all about power. I mean, in any sense of anything in structure of society, it's all about power, and so this is just an empowerment of the people of the early ICO.
100%. Totally agree.
You can see by the narrative of killing off the ETH1 chain. Like, why is ETH1 such a threat? Well, because it still poses that threat of people being able to realize what's going on and want to go back. But if you destroy the bridge, there is no going back. More like burn down the city instead of the bridge, I guess.
and not saying, like I'm against people, making money, obviously, with to stake something, right, for DeFi or whatever. The thing is, you just don't want these things to happen or interfere with consensus, right? You don't want somebody to extract any value or money out of this, because then there's incentive in terms of, hey, can I censor someone, or can I prefer someone? Like, if he casts a transaction, I prefer his transaction because whatever, he's the president of XYZ. So these things, in my opinion, should be just excluded from all that consensus stuff, which is, in my opinion, a good thing.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, at the end of the day, it's an open door for the legacy systems to be able to come straight back through and do exactly what they've done throughout the rest of time. Go back to the lords and ladies of the land, like taking that little bit of money off the top for everyone's crops and all that kind of stuff. It could pose a real issue going forward.
Yeah, we got to fix these systemic problems, right? The problems that stem from the beginning of the system level. And so if we could change the topographic map of how things work, then we can other than change society, change ourselves.
Yeah, it'd be
I
interesting
totally
to be able to
agree.
see where it goes.
I totally agree. They basically took the game and they didn't change the rules. They just well, they basically they took the game, changed the rules, and it's basically us having to basically adapt, but stay within the parameters of those rules. So it's tough, but I think that's why we're here. I think that's why we have our investments, and I think our contrarian viewpoint has helped us open up that door that they don't want us opening. That's it makes sense why everything's been stalled. We're at the point now we've been talking about the same lawsuit for almost 2 fucking years.
Yeah, and unfortunately, money talks as well. I mean, that's probably the biggest systemic risk as well. Like, I mean, if you look into any government from anywhere around the world, I mean, if they can line their pockets before the normal everyday person gets paid, then obviously they're probably more inclined to be able to not change the system too much to be able to continue on with that wealth structure. So, I mean, the XRP is pretty fucking revolutionary at the end of the day, because it's like, well, we don't need all these massive big issues with, incumbents and things like that. Like, we can work with everyone. Like, everyone's able to be able to work together moving forward. But then you've got these systems that have obviously been set in place with Ethereum and all this kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong, I still like Ethereum. Like, there's no issues there with the actual, the code or the underlying value of that. But yeah, without having any kind of change, it just doesn't make sense to be able to move forward with it. That's all.
So guys, we got like 25 more minutes, and I just want to say for everybody in the audience, if you have any questions about anything that's been talked about, if you have any topics or things that you had questions on that you wanted to come up and speak about, please feel free to hit that request and come up to speak as well. If you could hit that little bubble at the bottom right, everyone, and give the space a like and a retweet. And thank you for joining us, Kashta. Welcome up.
No, I enjoyed listening in, man. It was a good one. I was just gonna say, like, at the end of the day, before, as far as I'm concerned about Ethereum, man, like, they're really manipulating the people inside the Ethereum ecosystem. Like, 99% of the world doesn't have to use Ethereum, probably doesn't want to use Ethereum. So it's not as broad as, like, sometimes I think that people make it out to be. Like, if you don't like Ethereum and you don't like JP Morgan, just don't use this stuff.
That's it. That's just more people realize that it was just.
I think there was a delay. I'm sorry for talking over you, Death.
Oh, you're good. I didn't even notice. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, yeah, Kasha's fucking right, dude. Like, no one's forcing anyone to use Ethereum, honestly. Like, I personally don't even, I have a little bit of Ethereum, but I don't even fuck with it. I just have it to have it, and no one's forcing anybody to use it. But he's right, dude. Kasha's right. He makes a lot of good points when he's in spaces speaking, and they're being manipulated, the ecosystem. It's crazy how much these people are being deceived into something.
Oh yeah.
It's all about the marketing, man. That's what we were in a space earlier, and they were like, somebody had made a comment that was like, about the metaverses, right? And I was like, they were like, well, so Mark Cuban doesn't want to invest in metaverses because he says that you could just copy and paste and make millions of different metaverses, and he's right in that aspect of being able to just recreate the exact same thing. And so, especially when it comes to like open source code, nobody is understands that they really like there's no there's no forced need to have to use an Ethereum, right? And I think it comes down to the marketing in the end of the day.
This is why I think I mean, you can copy a metaverse and whatever and recreate, and that makes sense to some degree. It's like horizontal scaling.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you're saying is correct.
Yeah, like metaverse blockchain, right? As long as it's open source technology, you can just keep mimicking it over and over and over again. And so it really comes down to the marketing and then the ecosystem built on top of that growing aspect of the marketing. So you can market and then have that ecosystem for somebody to walk into after the marketing is there. And so that's why it's so powerful, is because that's what it has right now. But it's slowly developing and spreading out. It's a multi-chain world, for sure. But I'm also why I'm so excited for Flare as well, because they want to bridge that instead of being like the Ethereum where they're like, everybody just come here. They're like, no, go wherever you want, but you can just use us to get there. So we're the bridge between all of the networks.
And real quick, to kind of piggyback on the open source code, there's I'm sure everybody knows about HBAR, Hedera, Hashgraph. That's actually open source, and Phantom stole their code. So going with what you said, it happens. They stole Hedera's code. Now it's Phantom FTM. They have the publicity, they have the marketing, and it's, I guess, at one point Phantom was actually more popular than Hedera until people realized, the secret sauce that they had was the same thing as Hedera, just copied. So that's the slippery slope right there. Is the intellectual property that's not being respected in the space.
Well,
Both
I mean, if it's open source, right? If it's published open source, it's for everybody to use in any set matter. And so, like for Flare's instance, right? They're going to go open source, but they're a combination of EVM, so Ethereum, virtual machine, FBA consensus, so XRP ledger consensus, Avalanche protocol for interoperability, Oracle system from Chainlink. They're you can almost think of them like a Frankenstein monster.
yeah.
They have a little bit of everything. So they took the open source code and they kind of developed their own thing from it.
Yeah,
But now with
let me
that,
ask. I was just gonna ask Def right quick. Like, in a way, isn't it seem a little like a privileged comment on behalf of Mark Cuban, or a little short-sighted in the fact that, like, okay, even if a lot of people are, duplicating metaverses, and you end up with this kind of saturated environment with metaverses, right? I mean, if I'm an entrepreneur, right, I'm thinking, well, what does it take for a metaverse to exist? It takes servers, it takes other equipment, it takes like, and then you start figuring out where the trade is on that end of the spectrum, right? Not just poo-pooing the whole idea. If it has that much demand, then there's still a trade there, right? So
Yeah,
I don't know. I just disagree with him.
I personally think he's just talking his book, and this is what billionaires do. It's do what they say, not what do what they do, not what they say, kind of thing. But I do agree with the end and the aspect of it's really hard to know, like, to put your value into which metaverse, because when I hear the word metaverse, I look around and I say none of these are really like what I would call like a metaverse to me yet, and so it's hard because 5-10 years from now the metaverse might be completely different. If that's what he meant, then I kind of understand him, but it's also like if he thinks it's not viable at all, I think he's just talking his book.
Yeah, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying
he
is,
is.
like, even if it doesn't matter, like the gold mine scenario, right? Like, who cares which gold mine you're going to dig gold out of, right? One of them might have it, one of them might not. But if you're selling the shovels, right, you're gonna make money, and you want everybody digging for gold, right? You don't want to say, oh, it's gonna be a whole bunch of people digging for gold, so ain't nobody gonna make no money. You want literally everybody and their mama out digging for gold because they all got to buy a shovel from you, and you don't care if some of them find it, some of them don't.
Yeah, and that motto, it's like, who you want to invest into. It's like Microsoft, Amazon, like Alibaba, those kind of people,
The
right?
infrastructure.
The
Right, the infrastructure that it takes, yeah, exactly what I'm saying, right? The infrastructure that it takes for all of that proliferation and iterations and all that to even exist, right? There's a trade there. And that's exactly what I was trying to identify. But thank you for letting me say that.
That brings
Yeah,
up the point I
100%.
was gonna make. That is that they can have open source and it could be open to the public, but like it goes back down to the connections and the deals. Who's working with who? Who's building what? That's what matters at the end of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think without going into the shovels and things like that, and the actual, the sources of the detail. I mean, when it comes down to like metaverses and things like that, I reckon that Microsoft's going to be a bit of a giant in that space at some point too. Like, I mean, with them taking over Activision and quite a few behemoth like gaming companies, they are going to be huge in that metaverse space.
Also, he also needs to be careful about what he says too, because he's also being sued for Voyager. Because he was also one of the investors in Voyager, that he's also pushing it. So I think he's also coming from the perspective where he's also watching what he says too. Did I rogue?
yeah, I think I rogued for a second there too. I'm sorry. Man,
Okay.
Twitter is being really weird today. So what
I
was
think
that?
it
What
might be
you
Twitter.
said, Sauce?
I was saying, you know what, dude? I fucking said what I said, and I just totally forgot. I thought someone was gonna add to it.
Don't you like
Yeah.
train of thought? I'm sorry. Yeah, well, we
Oh,
got.
I remember. It was about Mark Cuban, about him having to be. Oh, my bad. I'm at an account right now. I do management work, so if you guys hear a forklift in the background, I'll try to mute it real quick. But I was saying Mark Cuban has to be careful with what he says and does because he's being sued for pushing Voyager. So if you were Mark Cuban, you would definitely be saying, hey, I'm speculative about metaverses, but you already know he's queuing fat bags of whatever, gala, sand, whatever, dude. He's fucking accumulating. Because if you were him, you would definitely want to be one of the first businesses in a metaverse or some kind of service in the metaverse.
Well, think about it. He's owner of that Mint NFT. Not a minute. What's that NFT website? I forgot the name of it right now, but they're partnered with Ripple, and so they have an NFT website, marketplace, right? And well, if there's going to be like land, metaverse trading, things like that, right? Where are these NFTs going to be represented? Well, they could definitely be represented on a marketplace. And so, just like how you were kind of saying, Kasha, like he's kind of already invested in a sense of some of that. I guess that little bit of that infrastructure in a sense to help administer this metaverse world that we're moving into.
It just makes the most sense because that's basically that's the new storefront per se. That's going to be the new storefront is the digital realm, that digital world. And I agree. I mean, none of these metaverses to me, none of them really appeal to me. None of them really seem like they'd be realistic. You know, like the whole blocky look and the whole Minecraft look. Like, I'm not digging that too much. But like, if somebody can do like not like a Destiny. I don't know if you guys play video games, but Destiny is kind of open sandbox, like Grand Theft Auto, where you kind of just dip in and you have your avatar and you're kind of living in a weird Orwellian, cyberpunk metaverse. That would be kind of cool, but that's like that's a lot of I think that's a lot of time in front of us. But definitely Microsoft, Amazon, Google, IBM, like they're all of them are going to want to have a piece of that pie. Definitely, most definitely.
That was sort of my point towards talking about Microsoft before. A lot of Microsoft's new acquisitions have actually been like gaming centers. So, I mean, they've got quite a few licensings across the gaming world, and there's a really high possibility. Like, I think it was like Ready Player One or whichever, which, obviously people wearing their headsets and they can move from game to game to game with an avatar and etc. There's been a lot of talk about those guys setting up pretty much something exactly the same as that. So being able to use your avatar in other games, but like, whether you're playing Call of Duty or you're playing Minecraft or whatever it is, the whole thing just all works together, which would be massive. And I really hope that everyone sort of works together in that kind of sense as well to be able to make that kind of thing happen. I mean, I don't really like the idea of wearing a headset, but man, if you're playing games like that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
where the metaverse leads to is like maybe like a headset or goggles you put on, but honestly, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna lay down, you're gonna be in a sleep state, and so you're truly in the metaverse where it's not even dependent on your physical characteristics anymore or anything. You'll be able to fly and everything you can imagine, right? Like a player one setting.
I think they're going to do that at the house, but then when you leave to go do your functions, you're going to have AR glasses that are still going to be on chain. So you're still on chain and you're still essentially reaping rewards from, say, crossing the street walk and obeying traffic and things along that nature. So that kind of would gamify life a little bit and kind of have the incentives to follow the law. I could see them doing that as well.
Yeah.
For instance, the
Almost
social
like
credit score in
like
China.
almost like a UBI rewarding you
Yeah.
with in real time for doing good.
Essentially turning humans into nodes. Yeah.
Well, I mean, well, why would you be rewarded for? I mean, you're still doing an in real life characteristic or in real life scenario.
Well, because they
wouldn't-
mention things about carbon credits. So the World Economic Forum pushes the ideology of where when everything's on chain and everything's essentially in that position, you're going to have to watch out for your carbon credits. They're going to, I guess, implement carbon credits for businesses and individuals.
Well, so
So
you could say like if you buy things that are plastic and things that are and you don't recycle and you don't do things like that and or
yeah,
you're,
you
you're,
spend less than like $30 a day. You buy eco products, or you get more incentive for getting vegan or something. Like they would gamify real life.
Just whatever you do, don't play Pokemon Go whilst you're operating heavy machinery.
yeah, definitely not. But one day maybe you'll be able to own a Pokemon that'll be your best friend, and you won't even realize you're in a different world.
Yeah, if you have AR glasses, you could see your Pokemon, and then you could see other people's Pokemons or dragons or pets or whatever they have on chain, whatever it is, Neopet,
So,
whatever it is.
so this is why I think they've come out with this different terminology for metaverse, because I think that even when we have like a metaverse in that scenario, right, there'll still be a different characteristic where you could have like an AR VR setting where you know you could be working and having conversations with people who are seemingly in front of you but are obviously across the world, using augmented reality.
We got conditioned by that with Star Wars. Literally, like that's kind of like what Hollywood does. I mean, I'm kind of a firm believer in Hollywood kind of having, access to how society's been going to be shaped and formed. That's why they seem to be so on point with telling the future. So I think that's just one of those things that's eventually going to come to fruition.
I think it would be even. I think possibilities are pretty cooler though than when you would think. Sometimes you things you see in the movies, like instead of like having a hologram where it's a device in front of you, you could really just have like something implemented in the back of your head, which just changes the synaptic connections to the way that you can see light through the eyes, and it just pushes the imagery like to the nerve endings as like somebody was in front of you instead of even needing
Oh yeah,
something.
dude, best believe they're going to be implementing biometrics in the future, maybe 5 years from now or something, but they're going to make biometrics cool. It's going to start off with like medical records and ease of access for things like that. But then it's going to become like a rebellious, cool thing where we're going to see teenagers maybe get implants, like maybe fake tails or fake horns or something that will kind of complement the biometrics in their body, lights or something that kind of like alter human anatomy a little bit, but just incorporate transhumanism, the kind of developing that cyberpunk world, I guess.
Another really cool thing on that as well, like I mean, if you look at the science level, once you've got the database out there, say if you're going for a walk in like a forest or whichever it is, and you can actually look at each plant and then realize how that like that plant's DNA actually works and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there would be definitely really good scientific purposes for that as well. I mean, it'd be like having the internet in your eyes without having to cross-reference anything. It'd be just right there for you.
Insurance purposes too, because that's definitely immutable data. That data point's immutable. So therefore, insurance companies would want to get access to, like, say, retinal recordings or it's really some Black Mirror shit.
Hey, so just FYI, I mean, you guys can stay on here and that's fine, but I'm going to have to head out here in just a few minutes.
Yeah, we could close it up at 5 today. It's up to you. I mean, I like to keep it. We'll close it up at 5, and then
You can keep it going. I can head out and go do my thing, but if you want to keep it open, keep it open.
that's all right. We'll close it at 5, and then if maybe Tony wants to put it or somebody wants to open up a space, I'll join it. We can keep the convo going, just so the space isn't too long. But yeah, I mean, we're coming up on that. I guess we'll have like 5 more minutes if anybody wants to come up, has any specific questions about any of the topics that have been spoken about so far. Please feel free, hit the request. I always love having the cybernetics conversation. It's getting more and more common.
Well, cybernetics to me is a lot of the origin, the intellectual origin of most of this stuff.
Yeah.
If you really trace it back through the train of thought and where these concepts have come from, cybernetics is pretty much the beginning. I mean, that goes all the way back to the 40s, 30s, I think. Yeah.
Crazy, right? How all of this has been talked about for such a long period of time. Well, I mean, you can go back to even movies like Back to the Future, and like some of the stuff that exists today, other than the flying cars. I mean, communication, telephones. I was reading the other day when the first telephone was made, and how they went to the cell phone, and it was like they were like didn't understand of how you could make this go from from no wires to from wires to no wires. It didn't make any sense.
Man, I
Yeah.
remember those things. They were an absolute brick back in the day. Like an absolute brick. It was like walking around with a suitcase kind of situation.
Yeah. I'm old enough to have done one of those.
Yeah, I just bring up the whole biometrics because Ripple does have connections with biometrics. So it's
Yeah, people
there.
like to talk about that one RFID chip thing about the U.S. Navy. It was a couple of years ago. But we never really heard anything more than that.
Yeah, but that's in my opinion, I think that's just how they do it. I think they just put it out there so that way we can come back 5, 6, 10 years later, like, oh, this is old. They've been doing this for forever. But that could just be my opinion.
Yeah, I do agree with it though. The world is a funny place. Whoa, is that the satellite alarm?
No, okay. I'm getting some.
Are they watching
I
from
got
above?
it. Hang on. I
Yep,
gotta
that's
get.
a lot of beeps.
They got to Karma.
Are they making contact?
Karma's going home.
Hopefully, he doesn't have a radar dish coming out of his butt.
Oh, hopefully the aliens would have better technology, which would not make a device have to come out of side of you. If we have cell phones that don't have to have antennas, hopefully they don't have devices that need that.
It's like a 30 feet pole.
Well, yeah. Okay, so it just spears you right through your body. Then I guess there's no point in putting it inside you unless it's planning to blow you up.
Well, no, when it shrinks down, it's like a foot, but then when you stretch it out, it's like 30 feet pole. It's just one massive antenna.
Do you know about this stuff, Tony?
I've watched DT a couple times.
Uh,
I'm pretty sure there's a couple of really good references to South Park there with Cartman too.
Oh,
it
those are like super old
it
episodes.
wouldn't
Yeah.
even make any. You'd be better off with like a shot in the arm that inserts a device into your arm on the edge of the skin, which has a radio signal. Or it wouldn't make any sense to insert something into the inner parts of your body. Especially the other way is so much easier to have a tracking device, right? Like if I want to track your vehicle, right? I'm not gonna like dig through your vehicle's engine to put like a tracking device, right? Like I'm gonna shoot a tracking device on like the back of the car or something with like a little rubber adhesive or something. Just makes more sense.
Well, like we were talking about the other day, I mean, with that with that chip, I mean, say if you do get like a solar flare or anything like that, I mean, would that still be affected, even though it's not it's obviously not powered by a battery or whichever?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on solar flares are really just high-powered radio signals, and so if the device could be affected by the energy that comes from such, then yeah, I mean, anything can be. Yeah. Interesting, right? Computers can blow up and have absolutely nothing wrong with it, and like your phone or anything could just like fry one day, and you could have no idea what's wrong with it, and it got hit by a solar flare, for all you know. I watched a video the other day of a tree got hit by lightning and it had 4 people underneath it, and all the people seemed to just drop.
Dude, I saw that yesterday. Yeah.
Twitter
That was
has a thing. I don't know if you guys.
crazy.
I don't know if you guys noticed this, but in our community, we all seem to end up seeing the same videos in Twitter. Does anybody notice that? It just seems to be the same videos you and I see are an accumulative of the community just circling around somehow. Very interesting. But just thank you everybody for coming today. It's right at that 5 o'clock mark. I'll let you go, Karma. You go enjoy, man. Have fun. Have fun on the boat, and thank you everybody, especially who comes up to speak. Right, we wouldn't be doing these spaces if it wasn't for everybody finding this information, viable and learning something from it. As it's such an experience. Every space I feel like we host, and I learned so much from everybody. But I love you guys, and we will see you on Monday, 3:30 Eastern Standard Time. Although I am sure we'll have some spaces this weekend, as well as Too Cold has spaces this weekend, as she always has a space on Sunday or sometimes Saturday, depending on the the projects they can make it for the Sunday barbecue.
Let's rock and roll for the cookout. Looking forward to it.
There you go. All right, guys. Everybody have a good rest of the night. All right.